Alright guys, another day and we are back for some more Championship transfer rumours. We've got a bunch to dive into today. As always, if you do go on to enjoy, make sure to drop a like, and if we do miss off anything in today's video, get it in the comments down below and we'll mention it next time. If you go on to enjoy, make sure to subscribe for more. But without any further ado, let's just jump in. So we have had confirmation that Leicester City have agreed a compensation package with QPR to take Marti Cifuentes. We've known about this for quite some time, and by the time you guys are watching this video, it may have already been officially confirmed. Leicester set to pay QPR a fee of £500,000 in compensation, and half of that 500k Cifuentes is paying himself. In terms of some done deals, we've seen Ipswich Town signing Cedric Kipre on a season-long loan deal. The Tractor Boys also have the option to purchase the defender at the end of the season, should they choose. I think this one's quite a nice looking addition, to be honest with you. Kipre, in his final season in the Championship a couple of years ago with West Brom, I thought was one of the best defenders in the league that season. Really comfortable on the ball and playing it forward. I think he'll absolutely suit a Kieran McKenna side down to the ground. And we've also seen Ipswich completing a deal for Dutch midfielder Azor Matasiwa, who's coming over from French club Rennes. Now, Ipswich had quite a slow and steady start to the transfer window, but things have really picked up for them over these last few days. This is one of the most expensive deals we've seen of this Championship window so far. The reported fee is around about €9 million, so the equivalent of around £7.8 million. He's a 27-year-old defensive midfielder who breaks up play quite well. In Ligue 1 last season, averaged 2.2 tackles per 90. Looks like a tidy player on the ball as well. We knew that Ipswich were probably in need of refreshing that midfield a little bit this season, with Sam Morsey looking like he's on his way out, Luongo leaving as well. For the Championship next season, that looks like it could be a top pickup. We've also had confirmation of Borja Sainz leaving Norwich City and joining Porto. We knew that this one was on the cards for quite some time. Norwich set to bank a fee of around £14.3 million. Given the circumstances, I think that's a fair deal for everyone involved, really. Obviously, Sainz really hit things off during the first half of last season. Went off the boil a little bit towards the tail end of the campaign, and considering he only had 1 year left on his deal at Carrow Road, that was always going to impact his valuation and things like that. But I think the move makes sense for him. He'll go on to play for a top club in a competitive league, but Norwich have also got a relatively decent fee for him as well. We've had confirmation of Millwall signing Chelsea defender Zach Sturridge on a permanent basis. Millwall fans got to see a few glimpses of the youngster during the second half of last season that he spent on loan with Millwall. Made 5 Championship appearances, totaling just over 300 minutes of Championship football. During those limited minutes, he clearly made an impression at the Den as they decided to purchase him on a permanent basis. But those are some of the latest done deals. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into the rumours. Amid Hull's off-the-pitch issues, a few Championship clubs could look to take advantage and poach a few of their stars. Experienced defender John Egan is currently being linked with a move away from the Tigers, with the likes of Derby, Stoke and Wrexham all supposedly interested in the 32-year-old. Now, Hull themselves only signed Egan going back to the January transfer window. Thought he had a positive impact during the second half of the season. Clearly someone who's still good enough for this level, despite a lack of football in recent seasons. 32 years old and still got another year left to run on his contract with Hull, with the option of an extra year. But like I say, with those off-the-field issues, I think we are going to see quite a few players being linked with a move away from Hull over these next few days and weeks. That's inevitable. Andrija Vukovic is currently on trial with Preston North End. Whether that leads to a contract being offered, we'll have to wait and see how he gets on in training. By all accounts, he's a friend of Milutin Osmajic. He's a fellow Montenegrin international. Was last playing in Mexico, but is now available on a free transfer. He's 28 years old, would be an option on that left-hand side to play as a sort of left wing back. Looks like North End will be assessing him over these coming weeks to see whether or not we'll offer him a contract or not. Swedish midfielder William Milovanovic has been linked with a move to Middlesbrough. It makes sense that Borough are looking to strengthen in this department. Obviously, the links with Hayden Hackney in the Premier League aren't going away. It seems likely that we'll get some concrete offers for him in the coming weeks, and regardless of Hackney or not, I think this was still the position that Borough were going to be looking to strengthen this summer. Now, in the case of the Swedish midfielder, they do face a bit of competition for his signature. There's also interest from around Europe. A couple of clubs in Germany are interested, as well as interest from Italy as well. Speaking of Middlesbrough, they're also interested in a deal for Chelsea's Alfie Gilchrist, who spent last season out on loan with Sheffield United, made 30 appearances for the Blades in the Championship, and quite a useful player to have around, really. Obviously, predominantly plays as a right back, but can also play as a centre half as well. Middlesbrough have made an inquiry about picking him up for next season. You would imagine there'd be a few others in the race for him as well. And it also looks like Middlesbrough are set to win the race for Danny Ings, signing him on a free transfer. Now, there has been quite a bit of Championship interest in the former West Ham striker. There have been quite prominent links with Wrexham, but it seems like they're going after other targets, and it looks more than likely that Ings will be ending up at the Riverside next season. Borough fans, I'd be interested to get your reaction on this one down below. Obviously, the striker department, definitely somewhere where Borough needed to strengthen. Ings is an interesting one, and I could really see this sort of signing going either way next season. I think a drop down to the Championship was probably inevitable. It is worth pointing out that he's really not played a lot of football for West Ham over these last 2 seasons. Over the last 2 full Premier League seasons, he's only started in 4 league matches. Quite a few appearances off the bench, in fairness to him. And you'd imagine he'd have a much more prominent role in that Borough side next season. It's tough to say what his sort of current ability stands at, because we've just not seen a lot of him over these last few years in the Premier League. Just as a sharp shooter in and around the box though, you'd fancy him to score a few for Borough next season if the service is right, wouldn't you? And regarding Middlesbrough as well, it does seem inevitable that one way or another Callum Britton will be leaving Blackburn Rovers this summer. We have had confirmation that the contract offer that Rovers have put in front of him, he's not signed, he has gone ahead and rejected that. We knew that he refused to play in Blackburn's latest friendly against Accrington Stanley as well, with this sort of move being on his mind. Now, this would be a massive blow for Blackburn, in my opinion. Britton been one of their most consistent performers for some time. He's only got 1 year left in his deal though, so the club is pushed into a bit of a tricky spot really, because it's at a stage where they probably have to cash in really, with the player pushing for the move, not signing a new contract. You're only going to have an asset there that's dwindling in value if you don't decide to sell him now. Middlesbrough looks like his most likely destination, but there has also been prominent interest from Derby during the window as well. There seems to be a growing interest in Sheffield Wednesday's Max Lowe. Among those interested at the moment, you've got both Preston North End and Leicester City. Now, Lowe is one of the Sheffield Wednesday players who is currently under contract, but because of unpaid wages, he is believed to be one of the players that could walk away from his contract on a free transfer. So, bit of Championship interest there. Imagine with all those links, he wouldn't struggle to find a new club if he is going to be walking away from Wednesday on a free. With Millwall goalkeeper Lucas Jensen still recovering from an Achilles injury, it's understandable that they're looking to strengthen their goalkeeping department heading into next season. Among those being linked with Millwall at the moment, you've got Radek Vitic, a youngster from Manchester United. He spent the last few seasons out on loan and has impressed during that time. 21 years old, but he's a bit of a giant in between the sticks. He stands at 6'6". Spent last season out on loan in the Austrian top flight, where by all accounts he impressed. Another goalkeeping option being explored by Millwall is Tim Krul. He's available on a free transfer this summer after his contract at Luton was up. He's not played a great deal of football over these last few years, but someone with a plethora of experience under his belt, and another giant goalkeeper between the sticks. Speaking of Millwall, Massimo Luongo is currently training with Alex Neil's side and could be offered a contract by the club. Didn't play a great deal of football in the Premier League last season, but I think would be a really nice option for Millwall. Luongo's been a player who I've been a fan of for quite some time. Obviously played an instrumental role in Ipswich's promotion to the Premier League a couple of seasons ago. Still at a decent age, just 32. Millwall in need of some reinforcing in this department as well, especially after the George Sewell departure this summer. On a free transfer, I think that could be a nice pickup. Danish forward Luka Kermegard looked to be on his way to sign for Watford, with the medical booked in as of recording. The forward's most recently been playing in the Danish second division, where he's got an absolutely cracking record. Last season across all competitions, scored 22 goals and got 7 assists in just 29 appearances. The current figures being quoted are around about €5 million, so the equivalent of just over £4.3 million. Watford have been really proactive in the window recently and really utilising that European market. A new number 9 was absolutely needed, and it seems like they've got their man here. Now, we have spoken about Mets winger Papadiello on the channel previously, because Watford's interest in the 21-year-old has been quite prominent for some time. However, it's since been reported that Norwich City could try and hijack that deal. Now, it has been stated that Watford still seem pretty confident in striking a deal, but there's definitely concrete interest from Norwich there at the moment as well. So interest very high from both clubs at the moment. He's coming off the back of a good season in France and is someone who has bags of potential, being just 21. Speaking of wingers, Bayern Munich winger Nestri Irankuda is being linked with a move to Watford. Now, Fabrizio Romano has reported that Watford are working on a loan deal deal, whereas Sky Sports have said that this one could actually be a permanent. He's a highly rated youngster on the books of Bayern Munich, also a fully fledged international for Australia as well at the age of 19. Going off Sky Sports' latest information, they've claimed that Watford have made a bid of around 2.5 million. However, there could be a potential stumbling block in negotiations because Bayern reportedly want a 50% sell-on clause as well as a buyback option also inserted into the deal. So Bayern are asking for quite a lot there. But he's a player with bags of potential, and like we've seen from Watford during this window so far, they are willing to invest in these types of players. Going back to some Norwich City news as well, Yang Hyun-jun is a player also under consideration by the Canaries right now, with them obviously looking to strengthen their winger department after the departure of Borges signs. Celtic yet to make a decision on whether or not they'd be willing to let the South Korean leave this summer. Last season in the Scottish Leagues, he scored 4 goals and got 2 assists, but only played just over 800 minutes of football, was predominantly used as an impact sub last season. And we've already seen Borges signs departing from Norwich, and it seems inevitable that Josh Sargent will probably follow suit in the coming days as well. You've currently got both Burnley and Wolfsburg who are in talks to sign the Norwich City forward, with Norwich hoping to bank around about 20 million for their star striker. Now, it was speculated earlier in the window that Sam Morsy might be allowed to move on this summer. There was some interest from clubs in the Middle East earlier on, but it seems like that interest has gone quieter as of late. Now he's being linked with the move to Derby County, with John Eustace reportedly keen on the deal. Derby have been really going after some of the over 30 players during this window, haven't they? But someone like a Morsy I think would be a nice pickup for Derby if the money was right regarding this deal. A potential midfield duo next season of Ibu Adams and Sam Morsy. God, could you imagine how many yellow cards they'd rack up between them? But that wouldn't be a midfield pairing that I think any championship side would look forward to facing. They'd just be flying into tackles, the pair of them, wouldn't they? But looks like Ipswich are prepared to facilitate this sort of move, provided that Morsy's happy with the offer and the sort of right money comes in. But there does seem to be maybe some legs to that one, that Derby could get the wheels in motion there. It looks like Portsmouth have won the race to sign John Swift, who's available on a free transfer this summer after his contract at West Brom was up. I think Swift's a really interesting player. There's no denying that for the last sort of 12 or so months, he's definitely been off the boil. Last season for him was quite poor by his own standards. Even the season before that, I know he scored 9 goals that season, but was still a little bit hot and cold for West Brom. But I still think he's a player who has got quality, and when utilised in the right way, can affect games in the Championship. And I think on a free transfer, there's not much you can really grumble at this one for me personally. I think Portsmouth are also the sort of club that's had a decent track record in recent years of taking players when they're at a stage of their career where maybe they're not at their absolute peak in terms of where they've left their previous club, but they've been really good at building those players back up again. Going back to his Reading days, and I know we're going back quite a few years now, but Swift was one of my favourite players to watch in the Championship back then for how technically brilliant he could be from those sorts of central positions. And if you get a bit of that magic next season on the free transfer, seems like a bit of a no-brainer to me. Well guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to drop a like and get all your thoughts in the comments down below on all of the latest transfer news floating about the Championship. Other than that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.